except for Robert, who we're going to invite to stay on the bima and offer his words of wisdom as he connects this portion to a beautiful expression of pride and Shabbat and all of the love that he has.
Right where you put it.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And happy Pride. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Robert Friedman. Standing on this bima tonight fills me with an incredible sense of history because I have been a member of this congregation since I was 8 years old. In the decades that have unfolded since I was a child in the pews on 72nd and Cass, my life has changed a lot. Today, I am blessed with a wonderful husband, Andy. I serve on our board of trustees and on the advisory board for the Jewish Community Relations Council. But tonight, I speak to you with one of the deepest honors I have, serving as your Pride lay leader, which means in a few distinct ways, I am a little like Moses. I get to figure out how to lead our people in a straight line for 45 minutes during a parade. Looking at our history, I absolutely have no doubts as to why it took us 40 years to get to the Promised Land. But joking aside, navigating lines, transitions, and the messy realities of human nature is part of our sacred history. This week, our Torah portion, Parashat Korach, alongside our Haftorah from the first book of Samuel, presents us with a striking mirror regarding leadership transitions, accountability, and the boundaries of power. In the parasha, we witness Korach leading an ill-fated mutiny against Moses and Aaron, driven by a desire for personal status. But the more intriguing dynamic to me happens in the Haftorah. There is the prophet Samuel who addresses the nation at the coronation of their very first human ruler, King Saul, a king the Israelites explicitly demanded because they desperately wanted to be like all other nations. Now, in a brilliant verbal parallel, both Moses in the Torah and Samuel in the Haftorah defend their absolute personal integrity because the people explicitly challenging anyone, the Haftorah defend their absolute personal integrity before the people, explicitly challenging anyone to step forward if they have ever taken so much as a single donkey or ox from the community. None of us are perfect, even those who are self-proclaimed kings in our society. Samuel ultimately reminds the nation that an earthly king is never a replacement for divine law, and true leadership requires keeping the entire community faithful to one another. Tonight, I want to talk to you about what these passages mean when viewed through the lens of the gayest sitcom I know, The Golden Girls. Now, for those of you who may not know, The Golden Girls was a beloved sitcom from the late 80s and early 90s about 4 women living their golden years in Miami, Florida. Let me tell you, Florida was a little different back then. When I think about powerful models of community, my mind doesn't go to ancient monarchs. It goes straight to Miami and the legendary Golden Girls. They taught us that true authority doesn't come from a throne, but from the sacred shared spaces we build together. This stands in sharp contrast to our ancient text, which speaks to me deeply today, because we find ourselves living in a modern society that frequently seems to be ruled by those who mistake their temporary political offices for permanent royal thrones. Like the followers of Saul, many in our world prefer the swift, heavy-handed edicts of a king over slow, intentional, and often messy decisions that true democracy requires. We must remember we are not a nation of kings. And when individuals are put in charge, they must respect that sacred nature of the office for us to truly follow them. Each of us are an essential, beautiful thread woven into the tapestry of our great state of Nebraska. That regional tapestry is strong, but it is also delicate. When you tug at it carelessly, the entire fabric can begin to unravel. And for me, unravel it did. Earlier this month, when the governor declared June as Marriage and Family Month, instead of recognizing National Pride Month. This designation was explicitly aimed at celebrating a narrow defined definition of mothers, fathers, and children, highlighting the traditional nuclear family as the sole backbone of Nebraska. This begs the question, what is a family? While the act rightfully drew swift and major criticism, for me, it became deeply personal. I love Nebraska, and I love this community. Looking back at what I spoke on last year, I think of my own home, my contributions to our city, my marriage to my husband, and our award-winning corgi, Moopsie, who is currently obsessed with alternatively biting my ankles and cuddling her other daddy, just like any family. How are we any less of a family? The truth is, we aren't. Everyone defines family for themselves. Despite an ill-cited political proclamation, we do not live in a world of absolute kings. And even when our leaders try to act like them, they fail the fundamental test of leadership by choosing to divide rather than unite us. Our families are real. They are whole. And like the Golden Girls, we prove every single day that our chosen families don't need to fit into a traditional nuclear box to be filled with fierce loyalty, laughter, love, and a little cheesecake too. Reflecting on the Golden Girls reminds me the most of Blanche Devereaux, a character who exudes confidence, but beneath the surface, frequently flawed assumptions and had to learn the hard way when she was wrong. In our daily lives, we make mistakes, we harbor assumptions, and sometimes, despite our best intentions, we fail each other. Recently, I made one of those profound mistakes myself. It was an unassuming night at a social gathering when I ran into an old friend I hadn't seen in a while. My friend happens to be a transgendered woman who recently underwent top surgery to more fully embody the woman she has always known herself to be. In a moment of misplaced curiosity, I pulled her spouse aside and asked a direct question about the surgery. Her spouse was immediately offended and visibly, rightfully so, angry with me. Now, in that moment, I had a choice. I could have become defensive, or I could do what the majority of our Jewish text teaches us. Listen. Listen when it's hard. I realized that I had made a massive mistake, breaking a boundary under the assumption that our history had given me a right to imitate information. Like Blanche, I let my assumptions outpace my empathy. It is an uncomfortable thing to stand before you as someone who leads and serves our community in so many facets and admit that I still stumble. I never want to cause harm, but growth requires us to look directly at our missteps. We are a community, a mishpacha, a family. And the true definition of family is not that we are perfect, but that we possess the grace to listen, to learn, to apologize, and forgive each other when we lose our way. When I look for a blueprint on how to navigate a world filled with both systemic exclusion and personal mistakes, I find myself thinking of Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls. Specifically, the famous A Day in the Life of Sophia episode. Now, the entire narrative follows Sophia throughout her day, which seems to be typical, anchored by her simple quest to buy a simple piece of fruit, a tangerine. But along the journey in the episode, she reveals a quiet majesty of her routine. She helps a struggling neighbor secure groceries at the market. And she sits in a hospital waiting room to provide comfort to a young, anxious couple. She doesn't do these things for a crown or a title, but simply because she can. In a world currently deafened by political noise, exclusionary rhetoric, and the hustle and bustle of our lives, Sophia's tangerine reminds us that there is always foundational room for deliberate kindness. This is a lesson that can anchor all of us as we celebrate Pride this month and next month. Our holy task is to consistently show up for one another, to ease the burdens of those who are struggling against the system around them, and to actively help them exist safely as their truest selves and most authentic selves. That quiet, radical validation of human dignity is exactly where real pride comes from. As we look to the weeks ahead, let us reject the ancient and modern temptations to look towards earthly kings or narrow political decrees to define our worth, our value, or the legitimacy of our families. We do not need a governor's proclamation to validate the sanctity of our homes, because the love that we cultivate, the resilience we show, and the community we build here is already holy. My simple ask to you as we move through this sacred month is to celebrate Pride with active, visible beautifulness. Wear the new t-shirts, and if you haven't checked your e-tidings, please do, because the shirts look amazing this year. But most importantly, I want you to carry a renewed ambition for communal service. We need this spirit for Pride now more than ever. Not just as a celebration once a year, but as a fierce commitment to protecting the deliberate tapestry of our community. I encourage you to join me and my husband Andy on July 18th as we march in the Heartland Pride Parade with your fellow Jewish neighbors. T-shirt orders are now available, like I mentioned, but they close within the next 2 days. Like I said, please check your e-tidings. I'm sure they'll talk about that, announcements as well. Have I mentioned announcements enough times yet in e-tidings? Got it. And if you can't come to the parade, find other ways to show up for a community that we love. May we be blessed with Shabbat, with a Shabbat full of peace, a month of courage, and a future where love, ahava, is always the final word. Happy Pride and Shabbat Shalom.